me about directors and how they treated certain actresses, individual ways that directors behaved with actresses on the set that you witnessed, stories that you witnessed.
That's a very hard question to answer. You are answering something. There have been directors that were great directors that never said a word to people.
Like George Cukor.
Well, George Cukor never stopped talking. I mean, George Cukor was that kind of a woman's director. I don't think he was completely that with men. Victor Fleming, I saw Victor Fleming do a scene with Susan Hayward. It was actually for production that Susan Hayward finally said, what does he want? Because Victor Fleming, when he was doing Jekyll and Hyde, and Lana, I said I wouldn't go on the set with Victor Fleming, the great Victor Fleming, who was a handsome, wonderful guy. Well, I was ordered to, at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I came on the set. I have a mark on myself from him. It was a scene when, almost the last scene in the picture. She'd done
Wait a minute. We'll wait till the phone rings. This I don't want to miss.
Settle, everyone. Thank you.
It was almost the last scene in the movie when Dr. Jekyll has come to see her, Lana, and they come out of a French door, and he feels he's changing, and she wants to keep him there, and she's crying and really, you know, wants to keep him there, and he feels the change coming on when he no longer has control of it, and he wants to leave. And Victor Fleming, it wasn't happening. And he said to me, she isn't getting it. And she had a little, not a big dressing room on the set, one of the little tiny ones. And I was sitting in a director's chair, you know, with a wooden handle. He was sitting in the next one. And he said to me, I wore bracelets. I always wore bracelets. These were gold bracelets. And he said to me, I wanted to hurt her, hurt her, hurt her. And the harder he kept saying, hurt her, the harder he kept pressing my hand into that wooden thing. And there were drips of blood. I went to the hospital on the set and got it washed and bandaged. When I went into the little dressing room, I said, you see that? That's the way it's gotta hurt you. And she did that scene. So when we got through, that was the first crack I said to her, and then I said, now, he rolled in a close shot to her as she broke down hysterically, and Spencer just stepped off. Now, Victor Fleming was sitting on the seat of the camera. You know, there's a little seat. He'll tell you that. Spencer came off and came right next to him. And I was here, and Lana was sobbing and really playing it magnificently. And Victor Fleming was sitting with his arms folded, enjoying it, just enjoying it. And finally Spencer said, you son of a bitch, if you don't say stop, I'm gonna yell at myself. And very quietly he said, cut. And she fell down. She was sobbing so hard. And he walked over and picked her up, held her, and quieted her. walked her to her dressing room. That I saw with my... So it's the difference. On the other hand, as I say, I saw Susan Hayward doing a test. And she said, what is he talking about? But Victor Fleming knew what he wanted. See, it's sometimes, dear, that someone can be as articulate as Cukor was. And sometimes a director can't. It depends very much, and it depends. Mervyn, sweet Mervyn LeRoy, he had a saying we all used to scream. He would say, now make this a good, happy, sweet, or it was dramatic. But that was be his last line. But I think it differed very much, dear. First of all, I think it differed in a relationship of what those people, I don't mean being in love or anything like that, but the respect and what you felt about the ability of one and the other.
Well, you know,
and then there were some directors, particularly in movies, darling, that never knew much more. There was a man called Dick Thorpe who was a darling, an absolute darling. Made fast, good pictures. He would say what he wanted, where the camera would be, rehearse. That was it. Now, I don't mean a woman like Katharine Hepburn. I don't mean a woman, but the average woman, shall we say, per se, the hairdresser and the makeup person, I think, were more important to them than to the men. And that is the most natural answer. I myself, you see, never went near the makeup department, never had my hair done by Sidney Gilleroff or anybody else. Never. That was... I just wasn't interested. I never had a drop of makeup put on in that makeup department in 18 years.
Were you sorry to see Janet leave MGM
Yes.
and start doing all those costume
Yes,
movies
because
with Tony Curtis?
but by that time, darling, I felt it was important for her too. But
a lot of people say that in order to work with Tony Curtis, that she took all those, you know, those costume roles when she could have really done.
It might have been, darling. You see, I wouldn't make such a statement because I would have to have asked Janet at that time, not today.
Well, how
Although
about
Janet and I are closer today.
How about the Howard Hughes thing?
What, dear?
How about when Howard Hughes took her away from MGM?
Well, that was a big picture, dear.
But it took him 4 years to make
I know, that was a stupid thing, dear.
The planes were out of date.
That was a stupid, stupid thing. I had nothing to do with that.
But that was men's business, right? Money and
Well,
giving
it
money.
was also, dear, a very big opportunity. You were making a picture with John Wayne, dear, who was a big star. Howard Hughes, all the money in the world, everything, dear. It was, from what was on the paper, even with MGM saying that she could, it was an opportunity.
So you believe that? You don't believe that it was just a deal between two men? And you don't think that it was because Howard Hughes was crazy about Janet?
Oh, that could be. Oh, that I wouldn't question at all, because that was a very normal thing with Howard Hughes. You know what happened with Ava Gardner? He told Ava, and Ava told me, he said, I hate that Burns woman. She's the one that tells them not to do anything with me. Exactly. But, and you know, I mean, to go back and say what was on the paper as far as that film was concerned, it was an opportunity. John Wayne was a big actor, a big star, dear. He worked with all the top women, all the top directors.
Did you ever meet von Sternberg?
Yes.
Do you know what Robert Mitchum told me?
What?
He told me that he knew Joseph von Sternberg when he was Joe Stern and
That's
lived
correct.
in Weehawken, New Jersey.
A lot of people, dear, knew that. There's no question about that, dear. That's not a Hollywood story. That is a fact.
You think it made him a better director to recreate himself?
No,
in
I think
Germany?
it created for Joe something that, on the other hand, after Dietrich, after all of that glamour, Joe married a very sweet, bright, charming, middle-aged Jewish lady. They lived a couple of blocks from here. They owned a house.
Let me ask you, did you ever see him on the set, von Sternberg? Because Janet said that breaking jet pilot with him was unbelievable. She said she never lost patience with any director or felt that any director was abusing her except von Sternberg and jet pilot.
Well, I think that when Janet had von Sternberg, or had Joe, let's say, that was after Dietrich. And I think as a man, as a human being, he had not only lost someone he loved or was in love with or whatever, but he had lost what he represented and was fighting to keep it as a director, darling. That's when Janet knew Joe Sternberg.
And the actors be damned, right?
What, darling?
And the actors be damned. In other words, no matter how hard he had to work them.
Yeah, he wanted that picture to be something. He